You are watching the LemonAid Podcast with Amar Law Group. Join us as we unlock the secrets and expert tips you need to know now.
Hey everybody, welcome back to an all-new episode of the LemonAid Podcast with experienced attorney Shalev Amar. I'm your host, Mike Leon. In these episodes, we always talk about lemon laws and how they protect consumers from defective vehicles. And in today's one, we're going to be talking about the importance of choosing the right attorney for a lemon law case, because not all law firms handle these claims the same way. And as always, my buddy Shalev is here to explain the difference of how lawyers don't handle it the same way. So Shalev, good to see you as always. Let's start with this, because I just mentioned it, that not every law firm handles the lemon laws the same way, right? So from your experience, what is the difference between firms that just process these cases versus ones that are actually going to fight for the client?
Good to see you again, Mike. Well, there's a big difference. There are firms and attorneys that are basically not willing to litigate, meaning they're not willing to file lawsuits and go all the way to trial if necessary. Now, look, going to trial in these cases should be very rare. However, you have to be willing to fight to get the best results for your clients. And so these manufacturers, they deal with the same firms over the years. And over time, they're able to figure out, okay, will this firm fight us if we make an unfair offer or if we unfairly reject a claim? And if they don't, that affects the type of offers that they are willing to make out of court. And look, most of these cases should settle out of court. Historically, 95% of our cases do settle out of court. But with that being said, the reason that happens is because in an appropriate case, we are willing to litigate. The analogy I like to use is, let's say you're a professional UFC fighter or a professional boxer. You train to fight, you're skilled, and a couple times a year, you have a real fight in a boxing ring or in an octagon cage. Because of that, no random person, if they know who you are and what you do, is going to want to just get in a fight with you. Because even if they're a strong natural fighter, to fight a trained professional who will go to the cage or go into the ring, they'll fight if they have to. That is a very dangerous prospect for you. Yeah. And so it's the same exact thing with these manufacturers. We've defeated them in court. We have a winning record against them, both at trial and in legal motions. So they know if they fight us, they could get bloodied up and hurt pretty badly. And because of that, they make more fair offers to our clients out of court. It's not the goodness of their heart. It's because they don't want to have to get into that battle with us that can end up costing them way more money, because under most state lemon laws and under the federal lemon law, which we always bring as a backup claim, we can recover attorney's fees if we prevail in court or if we end up settling. And so if they end up having to fight out of court, it's typically a flat fee representation or a percentage of the recovery. In court, we track our billing hourly. And so if they fight a case too far, we've had cases where we've recovered over $100,000 in attorney's fees. In fact, we had one case where we recovered well over $200,000 in attorney's fees because they appealed, they lost the appeal, they had to pay us a bunch of extra money. And so they're not going to want to get into that battle with us over a $50,000 car. It just doesn't make financial sense for them to do that and then have to pay $50,000, $100,000+ in attorney's fees to us if they lose. And so that's why it's extremely important to hire a firm that is willing to go to the mat if they have to.
Let me ask you about some of these lemon law firms. They're out of state. They handle these cases in bulk form. Is that a problem for consumers compared to working with a local attorney?
Well, look, I would say yes and no. It depends. To be transparent, we're in multiple states too. We're headquartered in Scottsdale, Arizona, but we operate in other states as well because we have licensed attorneys in other states. And these days with technology, you can handle most cases without having to see anybody in person. We can handle everything over phone, email, and even fax, which is not need to be used very often anymore, but also Zoom. And so for the vast majority of cases, it doesn't really make a substantive difference if you're in the state or not. But here's where it can make a difference. Let's say you want to talk to your attorney in person, or you want to come into the office to drop off records, or if you are dealing with a court case, you want to have your attorney as accessible as possible rather than having to fly out to your state just for hearings and such. So in those contexts, it does matter if the firm is physically in your state or not, but I would say it matters more for court cases than out of court cases.
Shalev, I would assume, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that many people think that lemon law attorneys, they just all do the same thing. So how do you differentiate yourself and show them that the choice of attorney actually does matter in their case?
Well, it's kind of like what we were talking about before. They don't all do the same thing. Some attorneys are willing to fight and some are not. And not just that, there are some firms where they are severely understaffed. They don't have enough attorneys for the case volume that they have. And also, at the same time, they they don't have adequate support staff. So I could tell you there's some law firms where there's 3 attorneys to every legal assistant or paralegal. In our firm, it's a 1-to-1 ratio where each attorney has his or her own dedicated assistant. That helps dramatically because then the attorney is not having to spend a bunch of time on administration, like requesting records or doing follow ups, and can spend his or her time actually doing legal research, negotiating, talking to the clients. There's only so much time in the day. So being understaffed is a huge issue. So I would say those are the 2 biggest factors is that a majority of lemon law firms are understaffed and also a large percentage of lemon law firms are not willing to litigate. Those are both very huge factors. So that is a question that you should ask any potential attorney is ask, are you willing to litigate if necessary? Number one. And number 2, ask them about their staffing levels. Say, do you have your own dedicated legal assistant? How many support staff do you have? Because not only do we have legal assistants, we also have administrative assistants who basically do some legal assistant work, but also some administrative work and some receptionist work. And that way, the legal assistants, the dedicated legal assistants of the attorneys, are able to put their full energy into doing client work and potential client work, not just fielding every phone call that comes in. So definitely ask about staffing levels as well.
Yeah.
About staff.
One, it's great to hear the law group's approach there on that. So let me ask you, because communication is key. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but how do you and your team stay in touch with clients throughout their entire case so they're always kept abreast of what's happening?
Well, for us to be accessible to clients is very important. We actually have a firm policy where we get back to clients within 1 business day or less. And if the attorney on your case is available, it's our policy to take calls immediately, unless it's something like an update or something that the legal assistant can provide. And so we also use software called Case Status, which helps keep our clients fully abreast of every stage of their case. Every stage in their case, the client will get information and can also, in certain stages, get videos. And so we want to make sure that our clients know exactly what's going on in the case, have FAQs provided ahead of time, and also Case Status is a messaging platform where our clients can easily message our legal team. On top of that, we use obviously email and phone. We want to be as accessible as possible to our clients. It's one of the biggest complaints that clients have about their attorneys is how difficult it is to ever get a hold of them or the legal team. And so we do everything that we can to be as accessible as possible, both using technology and using human beings to stay in contact with our clients and provide regular updates.
I'm sure the other complaint is legal fees. So I want to ask you, because I've mentioned it before in other episodes in the outros, about this fair fee guarantee. How does that give your clients the peace of mind when deciding whether or not to choose your firm?
Our fair fee guarantee is a core of how we do things and of our mindset. We believe that it's very important to take care of our clients and not to just get paid our full fee. Now, most law firms that practice in this area of law have flat fee representation for out of court representation, and sometimes can also have basically a percentage contingency fee representation, like typically 1/3 of the compensation obtained. But I can tell you that there are law firms out there where their policy in the flat fee context is if the case gets settled, they get paid their full flat fee no matter what the clients get. So let's say they have a $4,000 flat fee and there is a $6,500 settlement. And let's say the client needs the money, doesn't want to go to court, doesn't have the time or resources to pursue litigation, but something's better than nothing. The firm will take $4,000 and have the client get $2,500 and not bat an eye, not care. And we just don't think that's fair. We don't think that's right, that the attorney gets more, especially in the out-of-court context, than the client dealing with the Lemon vehicle gets. And so our fair fee guarantee is that we never get paid more than our clients out of court. We would automatically, in the example that I gave you, if the client wants to take the settlement offer, we would automatically cut our fee, split the offer in half with our client. So it would be $3,250 each. We would not get a dime more than our client. And the other part of our fair fee guarantee is that as long as we are permitted to complete the out-of-court process from start to finish, we are provided the chance to do our job. We will only get paid if our clients get paid. And so that's the other part of the fair fee guarantee. There's other firms that have all kinds of ways where they could charge their clients out of court, irrespective of what happens. Again, we don't think that's fair. We just want to be given the chance to do our job and to complete the process from start to finish. And once the out-of-court resolution process has been completed, if we get you paid, we get paid as well. And so we try and make this as risk-free as possible to our clients and as fair as possible to our clients. What we believe is that even if we get paid less in a particular case, if we take care of our client with our fair fee guarantee, that client will leave us positive reviews and they will give us referrals, and we will make that money back 10x, maybe even 100x. And so it's about having an abundance mindset, not a scarcity famine mindset that a lot of our competitors have, where they just try and get as much as they can out of that one case instead of taking care of their client.
You know, I wanted to ask you because a second ago you talked about manufacturers. They know which firms, will fight these cases in court and which ones won't. Do you have any examples you can share of, a manufacturer knowing that the client has picked you guys, and did it change the way they treated your client?
Yeah, there have been multiple cases. There have been situations where a manufacturer representative is not being very fair to our client. We're like, hey, look, please don't force us to fight you here. Remember what happened in XYZ case. We remind them, because sometimes they have staff turnover and they don't know, and be like, look, we want to be amicable with you here, but if you force us to fight, it could get expensive for you. Yeah. And then 9 times out of 10, it leads to a better offer.
Love to hear that. I'm sure clients love to hear that as well. So putting a bow on this, landing the plane, for someone who's listening to this right now, they're considering hiring a Lemon Law attorney. What are some questions that they should ask before signing with a firm? You touched on a few earlier, but what are some that they should truly be asking before they sign?
Well, there's multiple questions. You should ask, number one, how much experience do you have? Number two, is this the only area of law that you practice? Lemon law and breach of warranty, that is a very, very niche area of law that requires very specialized knowledge, and it's handled differently than a lot of other areas of law. Sometimes you get a personal injury firm or a general civil practice firm that'll kind of handle lemon law on the side. And it's just tough to be aware of all the legal nuances and just nuances in general involved in this practice area if you're not doing it full time, if it's just a small percentage of what you handle. So that's very important to know. Number three, ask them what their attorney's fee structure is, whether they do have any kind of guarantee for the client. Under what situations could you be charged for attorney's fees? That's super important to know. Because like I said, a lot of our competitors, there's all kinds of ways where they'll charge clients, and that's not what their marketing says, but that's what their representation agreements end up saying, as far as what clients who've been unhappy and come to us have told us. Another question should be, what is your one loss record in court? And are you willing to litigate? Are you willing to fight? And something else to ask about is, do you have a Google page, or is there anywhere where I can see your reviews? And typically you want it to be a third-party review site, like I said, like a Google page, or maybe a Facebook page, or a Yelp page, or avo.com. You want to see the reviews. You want to see what other clients have had to say about this particular firm or this particular attorney. It's very easy to say positive things about yourself. What somebody else says about you is infinitely more powerful than what you could ever say about yourself. Keep in mind, though, there are internet trolls. So I can tell you, we would have a 5.0 average across the board if not for internet trolls. But we have had, a couple of trolls who left us 1-star reviews with no comment. They were never a client. They had nothing to do with us. They're just internet trolls. And we've also had a couple of people whose cases we weren't able to take on because either their case didn't qualify or it wasn't an area of law that we practiced, that left us a negative review. Well, that had nothing to do with us representing them. That just had to do with sour grapes because we weren't able to take on their case. So just also be discerning when you read reviews, like read the actual review, see the basis of 1 star. If you see a 1-star review and there is nothing written, 99% chance that's an internet troll. If you see a review where it's a negative review because the firm couldn't take on the case, well, keep that in mind. It had nothing to do with the representation experience. They were just upset that their case wasn't taken on.
All right. Shalev, thank you for the time and insights on this, man. We truly appreciate it as always.
Thanks again for having the chat, Mike.
And thank you to everybody out there listening to another installment of the LemonAid Podcast with attorney Shalev Amar. If you're dealing with a defective vehicle, don't settle for a firm that's going to treat you like just another case. Do me a favor, visit lemonlawadvocates.com and put your state at the beginning of that sentence. So if you live in Arizona, Oregon, Washington, Utah, Colorado, Minnesota, or New Mexico, you're going to go to ArizonaLemonLawAdvocates.com, for example. Or if you live in California, go to CaliforniaLemonLawAdvocate.com. And if you're in the state of Nevada, go to NevadaLemonLawInfo.info, Or you can just call 866-904-2627 for a free lemon law evaluation. And with the Amar Law Group's fair fee guarantee, you'll never pay more in attorney fees than you recover for out-of-court cash and keep resolutions. As always, like, subscribe, leave us a review and comment, or share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. I'm Mike Leon. We'll see everybody next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and comment below.